For somebody to be successful, it has to be this very interesting combination of being not too complicated, very robust, has to provide a universal benefit. It needed to offer utilitarian value. It needed to be well engineered. And good engineering isn't always the most beautiful thing, like it with boats or ships, and I know a lot about yachts. The most beautiful one isn't the most seaworthy one. The beautiful ones look good in port, but when you're in a storm, they sink and they wash up onto the rocks and they're dangerous and scary. Or you fall and you break your leg on them. The ones you want are the ones that don't necessarily look beautiful in port, but in the middle of a storm, they're very seaworthy and they save your life and they get you from point A to point B. So when I arrived at Bitcoin, I understood the engineering principles, and Bitcoin is this great cybernetic network. That it is a perfect network composed of imperfect parts.
MicroStrategy founder and former CEO Michael Saylor is genuinely a genius. Many people only know Michael Saylor from his recent foray into Bitcoin and spearheading the institutional investment wave of adding Bitcoin to corporate balance sheets. What many don't know is that he's an aerospace engineer who studied at MIT, one of the most prestigious engineering schools in the world. On top of this, Saylor has an insane track record that includes founding multiple multi-billion-dollar companies and also huge wealth creation from spotting potentially early tech giants like Apple, Amazon, Google, and Facebook. In this video, Michael Saylor unpacks his deep-rooted belief in Bitcoin as an investment class from a first principles perspective. Combining his passion for the history of science with his business acumen, he draws parallels between technological paradigm shifts and Bitcoin. He paints a picture of how innovation like railroads, internal combustion engines, X-rays, and antibiotics revolutionized the world and makes a compelling case for Bitcoin as the next in line. Saylor further explains the importance of engineering principles in creating perfect networks composed of imperfect parts. With Bitcoin, he sees a perfect system operated by imperfect humans, highlighting its unique capacity to offer robust, universal benefits without undue complexity. Make sure to stick around to the end of the video where Michael Saylor explains why his conviction in Bitcoin has never been higher. Also, only a small percentage of my viewers are actually subscribed. If you enjoy finance content, consider subscribing or liking the video. It's free and you can always change your mind.
I was fortunate enough to have a good engineering education at MIT. And when I went to MIT, I studied in the School of Aerospace Engineering, and that was the greatest aerospace engineering school in the world. And aerospace engineering is the quintessential systems engineering discipline. In order to create a spaceship or a plane that flies, you have to master software, electrical engineering, you have to master civil engineering, elements of ocean engineering, elements of mechanical engineering, thermodynamics and propulsion, aerodynamics. You know, pretty much all the aspects of engineering go into an airplane. If, you know, when you're in that airplane 5 miles up, if the pressure blows out, you're going to freeze to death, you're going to suffocate, the plane could go into tailspin, you can burn up, right? You're moving near the speed of sound. The electronics can fail. There are all these complicated problems, and you have to solve all of them. If you don't solve one of them, the plane won't fly. So aerospace engineering, it teaches you to appreciate systems. Among other things, servo mechanisms, cybernetic mechanisms. Airplanes are designed to be stable. The wings like this, when the plane does this, it generates more lift on this wing, which brings it back to level. Turns this way, it generates more lift. So airplanes are stable mechanisms, and avionics have servo mechanisms and cybernetics built into them. Otherwise, you could never fly the airplane. You'd have to master control theory. So I had that engineering background, and the other thing I studied at MIT was the history of science. And MIT also had one of the world's great history of science programs. And so I studied how different types of science and paradigm shifts get introduced. What happens when we introduce the railroads and internal combustion engine and X-rays and antibiotics, right? How did we master infectious disease and fire, electricity, and how did politicians react, and how did corporations prosper? So those are my two passions. And when I left MIT, having studied all those, I then went into business, and so I had 30 years running a software company, and I think that taught me a lot about creating things. So I created products. I created probably a dozen different companies. Alarm.com is a multi-billion-dollar publicly traded company, and I invented that. That was home automation. And then, of course, I took MicroStrategy public. And then I created a product for interactive voice response, called Angel. That was before Siri and before Alexa. And I created all sorts of analytic products, Wisdom.com, Emma.com, Usher.com. Some of them succeeded, some of them failed, and I got to see what it's like to create things. And I also learned humility. I learned that sometimes the things that I thought that were most brilliant, beautiful, they were too complicated. And they crashed. And I was in love with them, but they were too complicated for the world. The last time we did that, a very famous example is the discovery of longitude on the ocean. A guy by the name of John Harrison created a solution to finding longitude, and people had failed to do this for thousands of years. And he defeated every mathematician of his day. The way he figured out how to determine your longitude on the ocean was creating a perfect clock. And he created a perfect clock with Greenwich Mean Time, which is the Royal Observatory time, and every ship had that clock and another clock. And when they sailed around the ocean, they would keep one clock set to Greenwich Mean Time, the other clock set to high noon, subtract the hours of one to the other, multiply it by 15 degrees, and you get the longitude. And so, why was that important? The entire British Navy used it to dominate the seas. How did they create the clock? The clock was a perfect machine, and the problem was, it was a perfect machine made of imperfect instruments. All the metals that were used at the time expanded and contracted with humidity and temperature. And so they could never get the mechanism of the clock to keep perfect time until Harrison came along, and he invented an element that is now in every modern thermostat. And the element had overlapping laminates such that you would have an imperfect metal pulling this way, and the same metal aligned to pull the opposite way. And when you have two imperfect metals that keep distorting, if you can distort them against each other, you get no distortion, a servo mechanism. So the history of science is full of people solving the problem of how you get precision with imperfect materials. And that clock gave us longitude, gave us navigation. All through engineering, you have servo mechanisms like that, perfect instruments made of imperfect materials with imperfect engineering, run by imperfect human beings. And what is the greatest of the perfect machines with imperfect materials, run by imperfect humans? It's Bitcoin. Bitcoin became that great cybernetic mechanism. And when I saw the way that Satoshi had combined proof of work and ASICs and mining and all the incentives in order to create this stable system with the difficulty adjustment that kept coming back to one block every 10 minutes, regardless of whether you have millions or billions of dollars worth of equipment, regardless of whether you have 7th generation ASICs or CPU. When I saw that, I said, this is just a brilliant engineering achievement. And it's not the most beautiful thing. Well, it's beautiful if you're an engineer, but it's not beautiful to the altcoiners. Yeah. Right? It's not beautiful to the crypto bros. They wanted something which didn't use electricity. They wanted something that didn't use an ASIC. They wanted something, right, that didn't actually have all of the competition. They wanted something that ran faster, that was cheaper, right? Like the rest of the crypto community wants it to run in 1 second for no fee with no electricity. And they want it to be ASIC resistant. Okay? what you realize when you look at the 1,000 foot long super tanker that hauls all that oil, that's 60 feet wide and has that sweeping hull, is it's not a luxury yacht, but it actually moves at 28 knots, 8,000 miles, and can outrun hurricanes, and it works. You want that thing. You don't want the pretty speedboat, you know? You're not going to make it to your destination. You're going to die along the way and capsize. So, back to your question, right? What did I have? I had an engineering background. I had a history of science background. I had a history in business that was both, it gave me the success enough to be able to come up with money to buy Bitcoin, a publicly traded company with cash, but enough humility to realize that sometimes you can be too smart for your own good, and you think that you can design the perfect thing. And in fact, the perfect thing is right in front of you. And when you see a good thing, you have to focus on it, because most entrepreneurs fail because they have one success and they immediately go on to the next thing and the next thing. And they end up not making the first thing work, but rather they go after the fourth thing, and by the time they're chasing after the fifth good idea, the first thing fails. And so I think appreciation of engineering, appreciation of history, with an appreciation of just how hard it is to be successful in the real world. Those three things, I think, helped me to appreciate the opportunity that was Bitcoin when I finally came across.
So there's Michael Saylor breaking down his Bitcoin conviction like he has never done before. His understanding of history, engineering, and business, along with his unwavering conviction in Bitcoin, is nothing short of inspiring. The parallels drawn between technological innovations and Bitcoin surely provide a fresh perspective. We hope that his insights on Bitcoin being a perfect system composed of imperfect parts, similar to the perfect clock for discovering longitude, resonated with you. Before you go, don't forget to reflect on what you've learned today and consider how it could impact your investment strategies. If this video provided you with some valuable insights, please hit that like button and share it with friends who could benefit from Michael Saylor's wisdom. And also, if you haven't subscribed yet, now is the time to join. Join our community for more financial content and insights from industry giants. Remember, it's free and you can always change your mind. Until next time, stay informed and keep an eye on those investments.